Are we starting to see the kind of turn of the tide when it comes to Xbox Series X versus PlayStation 5? There was a lot of crazy hype and a lot of interesting announcements made with the Xbox Series X and the S, of course. Now, has any of those come to fruition? Like, obviously, the Xbox Series X is a more powerful console. And I've been saying for a while that I think that in terms of power, these consoles are very similar. And you're probably not going to see huge kind of gains in either way. Like, you're not going to see a PlayStation 5 game look that much better or perform that much better. You're not going to see a Series X game perform or look that much better. It's always going to be within sort of this range. But what about some of the other tangibles? Well, Digital Foundry sort of laid into the PlayStation 5, and it's kind of been a while since I've heard something referred to as bootleg. But yeah, it was interesting sort of to hear this and definitely to sort of talk about this. I wanted to get into this, and I thought it would make a fascinating video to see the differences between what a lot of the Xbox fans are thinking and a lot of what the PlayStation fans are thinking. I'm sure that both of us are kind of, thinking different things right now, but at the same time, I do feel like Microsoft thought out their hardware a little bit more. I don't want to say that they thought out their hardware like a million times better or something like that. I do feel like what they've been able to accomplish has been, nothing short of amazing. And obviously, like, the games aren't going to be as, plentiful because, Microsoft really had a hard time kind of keeping up. And, that hasn't really changed. So we'll see what happens. But I did want to get into this. It's going to be a heck of a good video. I can tell you that much right now. First of all, I kind of wanted to point out that in terms of what Digital Foundry is doing, I found this to be interesting because John Linneman is talking about what's going on with this, and as far as I could tell, I find it interesting. He says, here's a more in-depth discussion regarding the limitations and benefits of VRR on PS5. Spoiler, it's not on par with PC or Xbox, but it's still a welcome addition. Note that I mentioned Returnal, but since testing it, they patched the game removing VRR for some reason. So apparently it's having all kinds of issues and things like that with it. Variable refresh rate, is that a game changer for the PlayStation 5? So the past week and some 18 months after the launch of the PlayStation 5, support for variable refresh rate, or VRR as it's commonly known, has finally landed on the Sony console. This feature has been on Xbox and PC for years, where it's been a key to smoothing out uneven frame rates, reducing jitter and eliminating screen tearing. So VRR on PS5 actually brings some level of parity across those platforms, but just how good is the PS5 implementation? Where does it succeed and where does it fail? It's hard to say. To discuss this, John Linneman and Alex Battaglia met up to compare notes. One limitation they noted right away is that VRR doesn't work on every display. Alex's Samsung NU8000 TV showed a black screen when launching a game with VRR enabled, but John was able to test more than 20 games on the system to good effect with his LG CX OLED. In most games, VRR does what it says on the tin, synchronizing the refresh rate of the display to the frame rate of the game, but it does come with some limitations. Most importantly, PS5 VRR only works within a narrow window defined by the HDMI Forums 2.1 standard, between 48Hz and 60Hz on a 60Hz screen, or 48Hz and 120Hz on a 120Hz screen. Normally, a feature called low frame rate compensation will kick in at frame rates below the VRR window, essentially doubling or tripling frames to ensure that VRR remains active. Now, if your game is running at 40 frames per second, then you could double that to 80 to remain within the 48 to 120 Hz range. On PS5, however, it's possible to drop out of the VRR window entirely, which can lead to tremendous judder and all the other symptoms that VRR seeks to actually alleviate. So it comes at a price. Yes, PS5 has VRR, but it doesn't seem like they've hammered out all the details or all the quirks to it just yet, and that's going to be a big problem going forward. Hopefully they can get some kind of idea on how to fix that or how to adapt to that, because right now it just feels like, not everything outside of like the first party is able to really take advantage of that, and I find that to be a little bit unfortunate for a number of reasons. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's still a welcome addition, but I also feel like, as with what's everything that's going on in the gaming world and things like that, it doesn't really make sense to kind of go out there and kind of screw with everybody in such a way, in my opinion anyway. So we might see, some changes and things like that in the future. But right now, it does look like Sony has, some work to do with this. And, will they be able to fix things up? Will things be able to ever go as good as they are on, the Xbox Series X and S? That's really hard saying. They don't have a lot of terrible things to say about it, but it's not like they have the most nicest thing to say about it anyway. It says, thankfully, developers can implement VRR patches to mimic the LFC functionality, as Insomniac has done with Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I just want to take a minute to say Insomniac games are absolutely the truth when it comes to video games and getting these things up and running. Their games really are the showcase to why you should have a PS5 if you do indeed want a PS5 or pick one up, because at the end of the day, the PS5 is a fantastic console, but the real problem is the games that really showcase it off, like Miles Morales, for example, but that's a cross-gen game, but they really went out of their way to make it shine on the PS5, and Ratchet & Clank is a PS5 game, and it shines like it's probably still maybe the best PS5 only game in my opinion. Obviously Horizon Forbidden West is a very good game, but it's a game that's sort of a slow burn in my opinion. I enjoy it. I'm still enjoying it. The game came out in February, and I am maybe halfway or close to halfway. I'm not sure exactly how close I am to it, but yeah, it's very interesting that that's sort of the thing that's going on. To enable VRR on the PS5, you'll need to head over to the screen and the menu settings where you have two options. Enabling VRR and supported games, the default option, and enabling VRR and PS5 games. Listen, it's interesting. From their initial testing, it looks like most games will work in this mode. The only one game out of dozens we tested, Gran Turismo 7, failing to work, and in this case the game still ran fine, but VRR wasn't enabled. So perhaps this can be fixed with an upcoming patch to the game. Similarly, Horizon Forbidden West also doesn't appear to work with VRR at this time. Again, we hope the developers will add the support, as the title could benefit from its inclusion. However, there are some situations where enabling VRR might not be preferable. For example, some TVs can't simultaneously enable VRR and local dimming, so enabling VRR can see visual fidelity drop as a result. Otherwise, it's pretty much likewise. Most displays also can't enable black frame insertion, and there's some other problems as well. So finally, what games actually benefit from VRR? John mentions two types of games that are a good candidate. First, games that target 60 FPS but miss the target a lot of the time. For these sorts of games with frame rate and challenges, it actually kind of changes drastically having VRR enabled. It actually smoothed things out pretty well. Second, the games that hit a lock 60. Often, in order to do this, the game has a lot of headroom built in, so by unlocking the frame rates and enabling VRR, you can take advantage of a smoother presentation when the game is capable of rendering above 60 frames, without worrying about things going south if the frame rate drops below 60. So obviously, it comes with sort of some bonuses and some positives, some kind of bonus positives and some negatives as well. Like for me personally, I do think that it's a good thing that they added it, but I feel like Microsoft did a much better job implementing it, and one of the reasons why they did a better job implementing it was because they implemented it into the Xbox One X. So a lot of the kinks and things like that get worked out well before these type of things pop up. So, I do see a lot of people kind of questioning this and going, well, what's the deal with it? It does sort of almost feel like, Sony at times maybe rushed their console out. And that's kind of unfortunate, because I think the PS5 is a good console, and I do think that, we are at this kind of point in time where we're just kind of going to have to be okay with some of these things, how they are. Now, hopefully, again, it just goes to show that Microsoft really kind of went and fixed their hardware problem like they promised, and Sony is going to continue to have some of these hardware issues, although their hardware is performing well, and performance-wise, little things like this, which is, I think, a big thing for next generation or current gen, because it's something that a lot of developers are counting on probably, and it helps, especially with screen tearing and all that kind of stuff, and then to see it kind of not work properly, I'm sure it'll get some adjustments and things like that, but it is just a little bit unfortunate that it's kind of happening the way that it is. Meanwhile, on the Xbox side, they've got it all smoothed out, and it's enjoying like these amazing benefits of this feature since launch, and since actually before that with the Xbox One X, which I feel like might go down in history as one of the best consoles of all time, and one of the consoles that kind of really just showcase why Microsoft is so far ahead of the game when it comes to their actual console itself. With that being said, I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. It helps the video to be seen, and it helps the channel to grow. Have a fantastic day. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. Crap Gamer out.